The fluorescent lights of County General Hospital buzzed overhead as Natalie Robinson slid down the cold corridor wall, her cleaning uniform still damp with sweat from her evening shift at the grocery store. Her hands trembled as she clutched the paper the doctor had just handed her. Stage 3. Aggressive treatment needed immediately. Estimated cost, $85,000. $85,000. She made $12 an hour at the grocery store, $15 at the diner, $20 cleaning offices at night. Even working all 3 jobs, she brought home maybe $2,000 a month after taxes. Her mother needed treatment now, not in 3 years when Natalie might have saved enough. Miss Robinson, we can start the treatment, but we'll need a payment plan in place within 2 weeks, the doctor had said, his voice kind but firm. 2 weeks. 14 days to find money she didn't have, would never have, couldn't even imagine having. Natalie pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to stop the tears. Crying wouldn't help. Crying never helped. But for just this moment, alone in the hospital corridor at 11:47 at night, she let herself break. Her phone buzzed. A text from her landlord, rent is 10 days late. Pay by Friday or eviction process starts Monday. Of course. Because one disaster wasn't enough. The universe had decided to pile them on, one after another, until she couldn't breathe under the weight. She pulled herself up, legs shaking, and walked toward her mother's room. Grace Robinson lay sleeping, her brown skin looking gray under the harsh hospital lights. She'd lost so much weight. The cancer was eating her alive, and Natalie couldn't do anything to stop it. I'm so sorry, Mama, she whispered, touching her mother's hand. I'm trying so hard. Grace stirred, her eyes opening slowly. Even sick, even weak, her mother's gaze held that same strength that had raised Natalie alone after her father left. Baby, you look exhausted. When did you last sleep? I'm fine, Mama. You're not fine. You're working yourself to death. Somebody has to pay the bills. Natalie tried to smile, but it felt wrong on her face. Not at the cost of your own health, Natalie. Promise me you'll take care of yourself. Natalie couldn't promise that. How could she rest when her mother was dying? How could she stop when stopping meant losing everything? She stayed until Grace fell back asleep, then caught the last bus across town to her apartment. The building was old, paint peeling, stairs creaking. She climbed to the 3rd floor and let herself into the tiny studio she called home. 1 room. A bed, a small kitchenette, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. The eviction notice was taped to her door. She pulled it down, added it to the pile of unpaid bills on her counter, and sat on her bed. Her whole body ached. When was the last time she'd eaten? Yesterday morning, maybe. She'd given her lunch money to her mother for the hospital cafeteria. Natalie lay down without changing clothes. She had to be up in 5 hours for her diner shift. Then the grocery store. Then her cleaning job. The same cycle over and over, and still not enough. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a voicemail from her cleaning company supervisor. Natalie, I know this is last minute, but we just got a call from Blake Tower downtown. Their night cleaner called in sick. It's a big contract, pays double rate. Can you cover tonight after your grocery shift? Call me back. Double rate. That would be $40 an hour. If she worked the full shift, that could be $300. Enough to buy a week's worth of groceries and maybe make a small payment to the hospital. She called back immediately. I'll take it. Thank God. Be there at 10 p.m. sharp. Building manager will let you in. And Natalie? This is a huge client. Blake Industries. Don't mess this up. If they like you, this could be a regular gig. Blake Industries. She'd heard of them. Everyone had. Christopher Blake, the billionaire CEO who'd built an empire before turning 35. The man whose face appeared on magazine covers, always looking cold and untouchable. The man who, according to gossip sites, had dated and dumped more supermodels than most people met in a lifetime. Not that it mattered to her. Rich people were rich people. They lived in a different world. She'd clean their offices, take their money, and never see them. At 9:45 p.m., Natalie stood outside Blake Tower, a gleaming 60-story building of glass and steel. The lobby was beautiful, all marble and modern art. A security guard checked her ID and gave her a badge. 30th floor and up, he said. Don't touch anything you're not cleaning. Don't go into any locked rooms. And whatever you do, stay away from the top floor. That's Mr. Blake's private office. He's working late tonight. I won't go near it, Natalie promised. The elevator ride to the 30th floor felt endless. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world she'd only seen in movies. Everything was expensive, pristine, perfect. Her cleaning cart looked out of place, cheap and worn. She started with the conference rooms, working methodically. Vacuum, dust, wipe down surfaces, empty trash. The work was mindless, which helped. She didn't have to think about medical bills or eviction notices. Just clean. Move forward. Finish the job. By 2 a.m., she'd made it through floors 30 through 59. Her back ached. Her feet throbbed. But she was almost done. Just one more floor. The 60th floor was different. Quieter. The carpet was thicker, the furniture more expensive. And at the end of the hallway, a set of double doors stood slightly open, light spilling out. Mr. Blake's office. The security guard said he was working late. The doors were open. Should she clean it? The supervisor said this was a big client, and big clients expected every floor to be spotless. Natalie grabbed her supplies and approached the doors carefully. She knocked softly. No answer. Maybe he'd stepped out. She'd just quickly vacuum and empty the trash, then leave before he came back. She pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. The office was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city spread out below, lights twinkling like stars. The furniture was all dark wood and leather. A massive desk dominated the space, and behind it stood a man, Christopher Blake. He wasn't alone. 5 other men in expensive suits sat around a conference table, papers spread out before them. They all turned to stare at her. Natalie froze. She should apologize. Should back out immediately. Should do anything except stand there like a deer in headlights. But she was so tired. So exhausted that her brain couldn't quite process what was happening. She just stared back, her cleaning cart suddenly feeling like the most ridiculous thing in the world. Christopher Blake stood slowly. He was tall, over 6 feet, with dark hair and the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. His suit probably cost more than her annual salary. He looked at her with eyes so intense she felt pinned in place. "Who are you?" His voice was deep, cold, the kind of voice that made people nervous. Natalie should have been nervous. Should have stammered an apology. But exhaustion had burned through her ability to be afraid. "The cleaning lady," she said simply. "Your regular person called in sick. I was told to clean the whole building. At 2 in the morning? During a confidential meeting?" I knocked. Nobody answered. The door was open. She paused. "I can come back later if you want." One of the other men spoke up. "Christopher, we should call security." She could be a tired woman doing her job," Natalie interrupted, surprising herself. Something about this whole situation felt absurd. She was barely staying conscious, her mother was dying, she was about to be evicted, and these men in their $1,000 suits were acting like she was a threat? Christopher's expression changed. Not quite a smile, but something close to interest. "What's your name?" "Natalie Robinson." "Well, Natalie Robinson, you just walked into a meeting where we're discussing a $2 billion merger. Most people would be terrified right now. Most people haven't worked 3 jobs in one day while their mother is dying in a hospital." The words came out before she could stop them. "Sorry? That was inappropriate. I'll leave." "Wait." She turned back. Christopher was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "How long have you been working today?" "Since 6 a.m. It's after 2 a.m. That's 20 hours. I needed the money." Natalie felt her face flush. Why was she explaining herself to a billionaire? Christopher looked at the men around the table. "Gentlemen, we'll continue this tomorrow. I think we all need some rest." They started to protest, but one look from Christopher silenced them. They gathered their papers and left, giving Natalie strange looks as they passed. When the door closed, Christopher walked around his desk, studying her. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be?" "Everyone else is. Everyone else probably has something to lose." Natalie shrugged. "I'm already losing everything. What's one more thing?" Something in his expression softened. "Tell me about your mother." And somehow, standing in this billionaire's office at 2 a.m., Natalie did. She told him about the cancer diagnosis, the impossible medical bills, the eviction notice, the 3 jobs that still weren't enough. She told him everything, and she had no idea why. Maybe because he was a stranger. Maybe because she was too tired to keep it all inside anymore. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Clean the office," he said finally. "But come to this building tomorrow at 9 a.m. Ask for me at the front desk." "Why?" "Because I have a job offer for you. A real one. Better pay, better hours, health insurance that will cover your mother's treatment." Natalie's heart stuttered. "I don't understand. I need a personal office attendant. Someone to manage my schedule, keep my office organized, handle daily tasks. The last 3 people quit because they couldn't handle my temper." He smiled slightly. But you don't seem easily intimidated. I can't just accept. She started, then stopped. The instructions from her supervisor echoed in her head. This was a huge client. And more than that, this could save her mother's life. Yes, she said. Thank you. I'll be here at 9 a.m. Christopher nodded. Good. Now finish your work and go home. Get some sleep. Natalie cleaned the office in a daze, her mind spinning. Could this be real? Could her life actually be changing? She didn't let herself hope too much. Hope was dangerous when you had nothing. But as she left Blake Tower that night, the sky just beginning to lighten with dawn, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. What would you do if you had to choose between hope and despair? If you've ever felt like Natalie, fighting against impossible odds, drop a comment below and hit subscribe. Share your story. You're not alone, and sometimes sharing our struggles is the first step toward change. Don't let this message pass you by. Natalie woke up to her phone alarm blaring at 7 a.m. For a moment, she couldn't remember why she'd set it so early. Then the memory of last night flooded back. Christopher Blake. The job offer. 9 a.m. at Blake Tower. She shot out of bed, her body protesting every movement. 20 hours of work yesterday had left her muscles stiff and sore. But she didn't have time to care about pain. This was her chance. Maybe her only chance. She showered quickly in her tiny bathroom, then stared at her closet. She didn't own anything appropriate for working in a billionaire's office. Her nicest clothes were her diner uniform and one green dress she'd bought at a thrift store 3 years ago for her mother's birthday dinner. The green dress would have to do. She pulled it on, hoping it looked professional enough. Her reflection showed a tired woman with dark circles under her eyes, but there was nothing she could do about that. She brushed her hair, grabbed her purse and headed out. The afternoon was spent learning Christopher's filing system and current projects. At 4 p.m. Jennifer stood. You've done well today. Tomorrow you'll start working directly with Mr. Blake. A word of advice, don't try to impress him. Just be yourself. That's what he responds to. After Jennifer left, Natalie sat alone in her new office, trying to process everything. This morning she'd been a cleaning lady working 3 jobs. Now she had a real career, health insurance and hope for the first time in years. She heard movement from Christopher's office next door. The door between their offices was closed, but she could hear him on the phone, his voice sharp and commanding. This was her boss now. The man who'd given her everything without asking for anything in return. At 5 p.m. exactly, Christopher opened the connecting door between their offices. How was your first day? Overwhelming. But good. Jennifer says you're a fast learner. He paused. I understand you take the bus to work. Yes. That ends tomorrow. There's a company apartment building 3 blocks from here. We keep units available for employees who need to work early mornings or late nights. One just opened up. It's yours if you want it. Another gift. Another piece of help she desperately needed. I can't afford. It's free. Part of your employment package. You'll need to be available early some mornings when I have 6 a.m. calls with international partners. This makes more sense than you commuting an hour each way. Natalie knew she should refuse. This was too much. But she thought about the eviction notice, about her mother, about the instructions to accept help with gratitude. Thank you, she said simply. I accept. Good. Someone from HR will get you the keys tomorrow. The apartment is furnished. All utilities included. He studied her for a moment. You look exhausted. Go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be challenging. Natalie gathered her things and left, still feeling like she was in a dream. On the bus ride back to her apartment, she called the hospital. Mom? I have good news. Really good news. That night, for the first time in months, Natalie slept without nightmares about bills and evictions and death. She slept knowing her mother would get treatment, knowing she had a real job, knowing that maybe, just maybe, kindness really did exist in the world. Tomorrow would be her first real day working for Christopher Blake. She had no idea what to expect. But for the first time in a long time, she was actually looking forward to tomorrow. Natalie's second day at Blake Industries started at 7 a.m. when Jennifer called. Mr. Blake wants you in the office by 7:30. He has an early conference call with Tokyo. Natalie scrambled to get ready, grateful she'd stayed overnight in her old apartment one last time. The morning commute was rushed, but she made it to the 60th floor with 5 minutes to spare. Christopher was already in his office, looking fresh despite the early hour. He wore a blue suit today, his dark hair perfectly styled. Coffee first, he said without greeting. Black, no sugar. Kitchen is down the hall. Learn how to make it the way I like. Natalie found the kitchen and made the coffee, hands slightly shaking. What if she got it wrong? What if he fired her on day 2? But when she brought it to him, he took a sip and nodded. Perfect. Now sit. Take notes. Don't interrupt unless I signal you. The conference call lasted an hour. Natalie watched Christopher negotiate a manufacturing deal with Japanese executives, his voice never losing its edge of authority. He spoke some Japanese, which surprised her. Everything about him surprised her. When the call ended, he turned to her. Send a summary of that conversation to Jennifer. She'll show you the format. Then we have a 9 a.m. meeting with the marketing team. You'll sit in, observe, learn. The day passed in a blur of meetings, phone calls, and tasks. Natalie took notes constantly, learning how Christopher operated. He was demanding but not cruel. He expected excellence but explained what he wanted. And he never, ever wasted time. Around 2 p.m., Christopher stood abruptly. I need to inspect the new production facility across town. You're coming with me. They rode down to the garage in his private elevator. A sleek black car waited, a driver holding the door open. Natalie slid into the leather back seat, feeling completely out of place. Christopher sat beside her, already focused on his phone. Tell me about yourself, Natalie. Not the struggle. Everyone struggles. Tell me who you are. She hesitated. I'm not sure what you mean. Your interest. What you care about beyond survival. I love reading, she said slowly. When I have time, which isn't often. I like stories about people overcoming things. And I used to paint before I had to sell my art supplies to pay rent. What kind of painting? Portraits mostly. Faces. I liked capturing expressions, emotions. She felt self-conscious talking about it. It's silly. It's not silly. Creativity matters. He put his phone away, giving her his full attention. When was the last time you did something just for yourself? Not for work, not for your mother. Just for you? Natalie couldn't remember. I don't know. Maybe 2 years ago? That changes now. You can't take care of anyone else if you're running on empty. They arrived at the production facility, a massive warehouse on the edge of the city. Christopher spent 2 hours inspecting equipment, talking to workers, asking detailed questions. Natalie watched how he interacted with the employees. He was tough but fair, and the workers clearly respected him. On the drive back, Christopher made a call. Jennifer, I need you to arrange something. Find out what art supplies Natalie needs. Good quality. Have them delivered to her apartment tomorrow. Mr. Blake, you don't have to. Natalie started. I'm not asking if you want them. I'm telling you that you need them. Accept the gift. His tone left no room for argument. Thank you, Natalie said quietly. Back at the office, the rest of the afternoon was consumed by more meetings. By 6 p.m., Natalie was exhausted again, but it was a different kind of tired. She'd actually used her brain today, learned new things. Felt good. Go home, Christopher said. HR will have your apartment keys waiting at the front desk. Everything should be ready for you. The apartment was on the 14th floor of a modern building just 3 blocks from Blake Tower. When Natalie opened the door, she almost cried. It was beautiful. Plain. Bright. A living room with comfortable furniture, a real kitchen, a bedroom with a queen bed. Windows that let in actual sunlight. After years in that cramped studio, this felt like a palace. She walked from room to room, touching everything, making sure it was real. In the bedroom, she found a closet already stocked with clothes in her size. Professional outfits, casual clothes, even pajamas. A note sat on the dresser in neat handwriting. You need proper work clothes. These should get you started. Tell Jennifer if you need anything else. CB. Natalie sat on the bed and let herself cry. Not from sadness this time. From relief. From gratitude. From the overwhelming feeling that her life was actually changing. Her phone rang. The hospital. Miss Robinson? This is Dr. Chen from County General. We received authorization for your mother's treatment today. We can start chemotherapy tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? That fast. Your new insurance is excellent. Everything is covered. We're moving her to a private room tonight. She'll be much more comfortable. After the call ended, Natalie immediately phoned her mother. Baby, what's happening? Grace asked. They're moving me to a private room. The doctor says I can start treatment tomorrow. How did you afford this? I got a new job, Mama. A really good one. Everything's going to be okay now. What kind of job? I'm working as a personal assistant for Christopher Blake. Silence. Then, the billionaire Christopher Blake? The one on the news who dates supermodels. He's not dating anyone right now, Natalie said, surprising herself by defending him. And he's actually really kind. He's the one who arranged for your treatment. Oh baby, I'm so proud of you. But please be careful. Rich men like that, they want things in return. It's not like that, Mama. He's just helping. But as Natalie unpacked the few belongings she'd brought from her old apartment, she wondered, why was Christopher being so generous? What did he see in her that made him willing to give so much? She didn't have an answer. But she knew one thing for certain. She would work harder than she'd ever worked to prove she deserved this chance. The next morning, Natalie arrived at the office at 7 a.m. sharp, wearing one of the new outfits from her closet. A red blouse and black slacks that actually fit properly. Christopher looked up when she entered. Something shifted in his expression, gone too quickly to read. Good morning. Coffee, then we have a board meeting at 8. These are usually contentious. Don't let them intimidate you. The board meeting was held in a massive conference room on the 59th floor. 12 people sat around a table, all older men in expensive suits except for one woman with silver hair. Christopher took his seat at the head of the table, and Natalie sat to his right with her laptop ready to take notes. Let's begin, Christopher said. For the next 2 hours, Natalie watched the board members challenge Christopher on everything from quarterly earnings to expansion plans. He met every challenge calmly with facts and projections. But she could see the tension in his shoulders, the slight tightness around his eyes. One board member, a man named Richard Townsend with gray hair and a permanent frown, seemed particularly antagonistic. Your pet projects are affecting our profit margins, he said. This community outreach program, the Employee Wellness Initiative, these aren't what our shareholders want. Our shareholders want sustainable growth, Christopher replied. Happy employees are productive employees. Strong communities create loyal customers. This is long-term thinking. It's expensive thinking. It's right thinking. Christopher's voice went cold. I built this company. I decide its direction. If you have a problem with that, there's the door. The room went silent. Richard looked like he wanted to argue but thought better of it. After the meeting ended, Christopher stood abruptly. Natalie. My office. Now. She followed him, worried she'd done something wrong. But once inside his office with the door closed, Christopher walked to the windows and stood there, silent. Mr. Blake? Natalie ventured. I hate board meetings. I noticed. He turned to face her. They only care about money. Numbers on a page. They don't see the people behind those numbers. The families depending on jobs. The communities affected by our decisions. Then why do you let them stay on the board? Because I need them. For now. But someday? He trailed off, then shook his head. Sorry. You don't need to hear this. I don't mind listening. Christopher studied her. Most people just tell me what I want to hear. You listen to what I actually say. That's rare. My mama taught me that listening is how you show respect. Your mother sounds wise. How is she doing? She started treatment yesterday. The doctors are optimistic. Good. He moved to his desk. I have something for you. Sit. Natalie sat, confused. Christopher pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. That's the deed to your mother's hospital debts. As of this morning, they're paid in full. She can focus on getting better without worrying about bills. Natalie stared at the papers, her vision blurring with tears. Mr. Blake, I can't. This is too much. Can you accept it? She remembered his earlier words. Accept the gift. Don't refuse help when it's offered with a good heart. Yes, she whispered. Thank you. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. By doing your job well. By not letting my generosity make you feel obligated to me. This is a gift, Natalie. No strings attached. No expectations beyond what I'd have of any employee. Why are you doing all this? Christopher was quiet for a long moment. Because I can. Because I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and what good is wealth if you can't use it to help people? And because... He paused. Because you remind me that there's still good in the world. That not everyone is greedy or selfish. You needed help and I could give it. That's all. Natalie wiped her eyes. You're a good man, Mr. Blake. Christopher. When we're alone, call me Christopher. Okay. Christopher. He smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. Now let's get back to work. We have an empire to run. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm that felt both new and comfortable. Natalie arrived at the office early each morning, had coffee ready for Christopher by 7:30, and spent her days managing his schedule, attending meetings, and slowly learning the complex world of Blake Industries. Her mother's treatment was progressing well. The chemotherapy made Grace tired, but the doctors reported the tumor was shrinking. Every evening, Natalie visited the hospital, bringing dinner and stories about her day. Grace loved hearing about the business world, even though she warned Natalie not to get too comfortable. "Rich men aren't like us," Grace said one evening. "They live in a different world. You're doing good work, baby, but don't forget where you come from." Natalie assured her mother she wouldn't forget. But the truth was she was starting to see Christopher as more than just a rich boss. She saw how he made decisions that prioritized people over profits. She witnessed him stay late to help a junior employee solve a problem. She watched him donate anonymously to charities and community programs. One morning in her 4th week, Christopher called her into his office earlier than usual. "I need your help with something personal," he said, which was unusual. He rarely mixed personal matters with work. "Of course. What do you need?" "My father's birthday is next week. I need to choose a gift. I was thinking art, but I don't know anything about art. You said you used to paint. Would you come with me to a gallery today? Give me your opinion?" Natalie was surprised. "You want my opinion on art for your father?" "I want your honest perspective. Not the opinion of someone trying to impress me." They left the office at 10 a.m., driving to an upscale gallery in the Arts District. The space was beautiful, walls covered with paintings ranging from classical to contemporary. A gallery attendant approached immediately. "Mr. Blake, welcome. We have several pieces that might interest you." But Christopher was already walking toward a corner where smaller, less prominent pieces hung. Natalie followed, and they stood together looking at a painting of an old man sitting on a porch, his weathered hands folded in his lap. "What do you think?" Christopher asked. "I think it's honest," Natalie said. "It doesn't try to be more than it is. It just shows a person living, existing. There's dignity in simplicity." Christopher nodded slowly. "My father would like that. He started with nothing, built his first business with his own hands. He appreciates authenticity." "Do you see him often?" "Not as much as I should. He retired to a small town upstate. Says the city made him forget what mattered." Christopher kept looking at the painting. "He didn't want me to take over the business. Said I'd lose myself in it." "Did you?" "I don't know. Some days I think I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. Other days." He trailed off, then turned to her. "What about you? If you could be anything, do anything, what would it be?" Natalie thought about it. "Before my mama got sick, I wanted to study psychology. I like understanding people, why they do what they do. But college was expensive and I needed to work." "You still could. Study, I mean." "I'm 26. By the time I finish school, I'd be 30. You'll be 30 anyway. Might as well be 30 with a degree." Christopher pulled out his phone. "Jennifer, research evening degree programs in psychology. Send Natalie the information." "Mr. Blake." "Christopher. I can't ask you to pay for college too." "You're not asking. I'm offering. The company has an education reimbursement program. You'd qualify." Before Natalie could respond, his phone rang. Christopher checked the screen and frowned. "I need to take this. Choose whichever painting you think my father would like best." He stepped away and Natalie heard his voice grow cold and sharp. She tried not to eavesdrop, but it was impossible not to hear. "No, Veronica. I've told you 100 times it's over. I don't care what the media says. You're not coming to the gala? Because I'm not interested in being a photo opportunity for your modeling career. Goodbye." He hung up and stood there for a moment, his shoulders tense. When he returned to Natalie, his expression was carefully neutral. "Sorry about that. Old relationship that won't stay dead." "The supermodel?" Natalie asked before she could stop herself. "You've been reading about me. Kind of hard not to. You're on magazine covers everywhere." Christopher sighed. "Veronica Hayes. We dated for 6 months last year. She wanted the lifestyle, the attention, the Instagram posts. When I realized she cared more about my net worth than me, I ended it. She hasn't accepted that yet." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It taught me something important. Most people in my world want something from me. Money, status, connections. Very few people just want me." Natalie met his eyes. "I want you to be happy. Is that allowed?" Something shifted in Christopher's expression, vulnerable and surprised. "Yes, that's allowed." They bought the painting for his father, and on the drive back to the office, Christopher was quieter than usual. Natalie wondered if she'd said something wrong. Back at Blake Tower, the afternoon was busy with back-to-back meetings. But at 5 p.m., Christopher called Natalie into his office. "I have something to show you." He led her to the elevator, but instead of going down they went up. The doors opened onto a rooftop Natalie didn't know existed. The entire roof had been transformed into a garden. Raised beds full of plants, flowers blooming despite the October chill, and in the corner, a small greenhouse. "What is this?" Natalie breathed. "You mentioned your mother loves gardening. I thought." Christopher paused. "I thought when she's recovered enough to leave the hospital, she might like to visit here sometimes. Fresh air, plants, something beautiful." Natalie turned to him, completely overwhelmed. "You built this for my mama?" "I built it for the building. Employee wellness space. But your mother is welcome anytime." He looked almost embarrassed. "The staff tells me gardens are therapeutic. Good for healing." "Christopher, this is..." Natalie couldn't find words. "This is the kindest thing anyone has ever done. It's just a garden. It's hope. You're giving her hope." They stood among the plants as the sun set over the city, painting the sky orange and pink. For the first time since starting this job, Natalie let herself admit the truth. She was falling for her boss. Not because he was rich. Not because he'd saved her and her mother. But because underneath his cold exterior was a man who cared deeply, who saw people as more than numbers, who built gardens for sick women he'd never met. "Thank you," she said softly. "For all of it. The job, the apartment, my mother's treatment, and now this. I know I keep saying thank you, but I don't know what else to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just..." Christopher turned to look at her, and the setting sun caught his eyes, making them almost golden. "Just keep being you. Keep being honest. Keep reminding me why all this matters." "Why does it matter to you? Really?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because I grew up with everything and nothing. Every material thing I could want, but no one who cared about me as a person. My father was always working. My mother left when I was 8. I built this company to prove I was more than just the Blake name and Blake money. But somewhere along the way I forgot what I was trying to prove. And now I'm starting to remember." He smiled. "Thanks to a cleaning lady who wasn't afraid of me." They stood there as night fell over the city, two people from completely different worlds finding common ground among flowers and fading light. Natalie knew she should be careful. Should keep professional boundaries. Should remember that he was her boss and she was his employee, and getting emotionally involved was dangerous. But when Christopher suggested they order dinner and eat it up here among the plants, she agreed without hesitation. They sat on a bench eating Thai food from takeout containers, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about building his first company at 22. She told him about her father leaving and how her mother had raised her alone. "She sounds strong," Christopher said. "She is. She's the strongest person I know. You're pretty strong yourself. Not everyone could have survived what you went through. I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice. You could have given up. Could have become bitter. Instead, you kept fighting, kept caring, kept being kind even when the world wasn't kind to you." Christopher looked at her intently. "That's real strength, Natalie." She felt her face grow warm. "You're making me sound better than I am. I'm seeing you clearly. Maybe for the first time, someone is." They stayed on the roof until after 10 p.m., long past when they should have gone home. When they finally left, Christopher walked her to her apartment building. "See you tomorrow," he said at the entrance. 7:30 sharp, Natalie confirmed. "Natalie?" She turned back. "Yes. I'm glad you walked into my office that night." "Me too." That night, lying in her comfortable bed in her beautiful apartment, Natalie let herself think about Christopher not as her boss but as a man. A complicated, lonely man who hid kindness behind cold efficiency. A man who built secret gardens and paid medical bills and saw value in people everyone else overlooked. She knew this feeling was dangerous. Knew nothing good could come from falling for someone so far above her. But her heart didn't care about logic or wisdom or caution. Her heart only knew that Christopher Blake made her feel seen, valued, and worth something beyond her usefulness. And that was more intoxicating than any wealth or status could ever be. The first article appeared in a tabloid website 2 weeks later. Natalie saw it when she searched for information about an upcoming conference Christopher was attending. Billionaire Blake's New Mystery Woman, From Cleaning Lady to Office Companion? The article included photos of her and Christopher leaving the gallery together, eating on the rooftop, walking to her apartment building. Someone had been following them. Natalie's stomach dropped. She called up the article, her hands shaking as she read the speculation about their relationship, the comments about her appearance, the questions about whether she was using him for his money. She was still staring at her phone when Christopher arrived at the office. "Good morning," he said, then stopped. "What's wrong?" Wordlessly, Natalie handed him her phone. She watched his expression darken as he read. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know anyone was watching us. This isn't your fault." Christopher's voice was tight with anger. "I should have anticipated this. I should have protected you better. What do we do? Nothing. We ignore it. Tabloids print garbage. People forget." He handed back her phone. "Don't read the comments. Don't engage. This will blow over." But it didn't blow over. More articles appeared. More photos. The speculation grew wilder. Some claimed she was his secret girlfriend. Others suggested she was using him. A few implied he was taking advantage of a former employee. Natalie tried to ignore it, but it was impossible. People started recognizing her on the street. Her phone rang constantly with unknown numbers. Someone even showed up at her mother's hospital room asking questions before security removed them. The board of directors was not pleased. "This is bad publicity," Richard Townsend said in an emergency meeting Natalie was not invited to, but she heard about later. "The media is calling you a hypocrite. You dumped a supermodel for a cleaning lady. It's affecting our stock price." "Our stock price is fine," Christopher replied coldly. "And Natalie is my employee. A valued one. What the media speculates is irrelevant. It's relevant when it affects the company's image. Then perhaps we need to change what people think our image should be." That evening, Christopher was still angry when Natalie brought him his fifth cup of coffee. "You don't have to prove anything to them," she said quietly. "I'm not proving anything. I'm protecting you. I can handle some gossip. You shouldn't have to." Christopher stood abruptly. "There's a charity gala next Saturday. I want you to come with me. As my official +1. Natalie's eyes widened. "Christopher, that'll just make things worse. The media will. The media will see that I don't care what they think. That you're important to me, and I'm not hiding that." He paused. "Unless you don't want to go. I won't force you." Natalie thought about it. Going to the gala would put her directly in the spotlight. But staying hidden felt like confirming she had something to be ashamed of, and she didn't. "Okay," she said. "I'll go." "Good." Christopher smiled slightly. "I'll have Jennifer arrange everything. Dress, hair, all of it. I can buy my own dress." "I know you can. But let me do this. Please." The week before the gala was chaotic. Natalie met with a stylist, tried on at least 20 dresses, and finally chose a red gown that made her feel elegant and confident. Jennifer coached her on gala etiquette, who would be there, and how to handle difficult questions from reporters. "Just stay close to Mr. Blake," Jennifer advised. "He'll handle everything." The night of the gala, Natalie stood in front of her mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress fit perfectly, her hair was styled in soft curls, and her makeup was subtle but polished. Christopher picked her up at 6 p.m. When she opened her door, his expression told her everything. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "You look pretty good yourself." He wore a tuxedo that must have been custom-made, fitting him perfectly. They rode to the venue in his car, and Natalie felt her nerves building. "What if I say something wrong? What if I embarrass you?" "You won't. Just be yourself. That's all I need." The gala was held at a luxury hotel downtown. Cameras flashed as they arrived, reporters shouting questions. Christopher kept his hand on Natalie's lower back, guiding her through the chaos with practiced ease. Inside, the ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, flowers everywhere. Hundreds of people in expensive clothes mingled, drinking champagne and networking. Christopher introduced Natalie to various business associates and donors. Most were polite but curious. Some were openly skeptical. One woman, dripping in diamonds and wearing a blue dress, actually looked Natalie up and down with obvious disdain. "So you're the famous cleaning lady?" she said. "Former cleaning lady," Natalie corrected with a smile. "Now I'm an executive assistant." "How charming." Christopher's hand tightened slightly on Natalie's back. "Natalie is more valuable to my company than half the executives in this room. Perhaps if you spent less time judging and more time learning, your husband's company wouldn't be losing money." The woman's face flushed and she walked away quickly. "Did you have to do that?" Natalie asked. "Yes. No one disrespects you. Not while I'm standing here." They made their way to their assigned table, where several other couples were already seated. Natalie recognized one man from the business news. Thomas Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Enterprises, one of Blake Industries' biggest competitors. "Christopher," Thomas said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And this must be your assistant I've been reading about. Natalie Robinson, she said, offering her hand. Nice to meet you. Charming. Tell me, Natalie, how does someone go from cleaning offices to managing Christopher Blake's schedule? That's quite a leap. There was something nasty in his tone. Natalie felt Christopher tense beside her. Hard work, she said calmly. And a boss who values potential over pedigree. How progressive. Thomas turned to Christopher. You're certainly making interesting choices lately. First, this community outreach nonsense, and now I'm building a company that actually means something, Christopher interrupted. But you wouldn't understand that, would you, Thomas? You're too busy cutting corners and screwing over employees to actually create value. The tension at the table was thick. Natalie could see other guests watching, sensing conflict. Gentlemen, Natalie said softly, this is a charity event. Maybe we could focus on the cause instead of business rivalries. Thomas looked at her with surprise, then laughed. She's got spirit, I'll give her that. Very well. Truce for tonight. Dinner was served, and conversation turned to safer topics. But Natalie noticed Thomas watching them throughout the meal, his expression calculating. After dinner, there were speeches from various charity organizers. Then the dancing began. Christopher led Natalie to the dance floor, his hand firm on her waist. I don't really know how to dance like this, Natalie admitted. Just follow my lead. They moved across the floor, and despite her nervousness, Natalie found the rhythm. Being this close to Christopher, feeling his hand on her back, made her heart race. You're doing great, he murmured. Everyone's watching and you're handling it perfectly. I'm terrified. You don't look it. You look confident. Strong. Exactly like you belong here. Do I? Belong here? Christopher pulled back slightly to look at her. You belong wherever you choose to be. Don't let anyone tell you different. A flash went off nearby. Photographers were capturing their dance. Tomorrow these photos would be everywhere. Let them look, Christopher said, reading her expression. Let them see that I chose you. Not because you're convenient or impressive or useful. Because you're real. The song ended and they returned to their table. But before they could sit, a woman in a white dress approached. Natalie recognized her immediately from magazine covers. Veronica Hayes, the supermodel. Christopher, darling, Veronica said, ignoring Natalie completely. We need to talk. About us. There is no us, Veronica. I've made that clear. But the photos, the speculation, it's hurting both our careers. We need to present a united front. Tell people we're working things out. We're not working anything out. I'm here with Natalie. Please respect that. Veronica finally looked at Natalie, her expression cold. You're the assistant. How cute. Christopher, when you're done playing with the help, call me. She walked away before either of them could respond. I'm sorry, Christopher said tightly. It's fine. I've dealt with worse. But it wasn't fine. The rest of the evening, Natalie felt people staring, heard whispers. She saw judgment in their eyes, questions about whether she really belonged in this world. When the gala finally ended, Natalie was exhausted. Christopher drove her home in silence. Thank you for coming with me tonight, he said at her door. I know it wasn't easy. Will this help? Or did we just make everything worse? I don't care if it made things worse. I care that you were by my side. That means something. Natalie looked up at him, this complicated man who'd given her everything and asked for nothing. What are we doing, Christopher? Really? I don't know. But I know I want to keep doing it. He left before she could respond, and Natalie went inside feeling more confused than ever. Her phone was already lighting up with notifications. The photos from the gala were online. Headlines speculated about their relationship. Comments ranged from supportive to cruel. But in one photo, caught by a photographer during their dance, Natalie saw something she hadn't noticed in the moment. The way Christopher looked at her. Like she was the only person in the room. Like she mattered. Maybe the world didn't understand what they were. Maybe she didn't understand it either. But looking at that photo, Natalie knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening between them was real. And that was enough. Monday morning brought more than just tabloid headlines. Christopher was already in his office when Natalie arrived at 7 a.m., and his expression was grim. We have a problem, he said. Come in. Close the door. Natalie sat across from his desk, her stomach tight with worry. Thomas Mitchell is making a move. He's been buying up shares of Blake Industries through shell companies. If he gets enough, he can force a hostile takeover. Can he do that? If he convinces enough shareholders to sell, yes. And he's offering well above market value. People are listening. Christopher's jaw was tight. He's been planning this for months. The gala was reconnaissance. He wanted to see if the rumors about us would make me vulnerable. Will they? The board is already nervous. Richard is calling for my removal as CEO. Says I'm distracted making poor decisions. Christopher stood, pacing to the windows. They're using you as proof that I've lost focus. Natalie felt sick. Then maybe I should resign. If me being here is causing problems? No. Christopher turned to face her. I'm not letting them intimidate me into firing someone I value. And I'm not letting Thomas win. Over the next 2 weeks, the tension in the office grew thick. Christopher was in constant meetings with lawyers, financial advisors, and board members. Natalie sat in on many of them, taking notes, watching Christopher fight for his company. Thomas made his intentions public, announcing his bid to acquire Blake Industries. The stock price jumped. Shareholders grew nervous. Media outlets speculated about whether Christopher could hold on to control. In the middle of it all, an opportunity appeared. A major international retailer was looking for a new supplier for their stores across America. The contract was worth hundreds of millions and would secure Blake Industries' position significantly. But they were meeting with multiple companies, including Mitchell Enterprises. We need this contract, Christopher said in a strategy meeting with his senior executives. If we get it, Thomas's takeover attempt loses credibility. Shareholders will see we're still growing, still valuable. The retailer wants a pitch next week, Jennifer reported. They're specifically interested in community impact and ethical sourcing. That's our strong suit. It's also expensive, one executive pointed out. Mitchell can undercut our prices by using overseas labor and cheaper materials. Then we need to show them why our approach is better long-term, Christopher said. The meeting continued for hours, strategizing their pitch. Natalie listened, thinking about everything she'd learned working for Christopher. She thought about the employees she'd met at the production facility, the community programs Blake Industries funded, the ethical standards Christopher insisted on maintaining even when they cost more. That evening, as everyone else left, Natalie lingered in Christopher's office. I have an idea, she said hesitantly. About the pitch. Christopher looked up from his laptop, exhaustion clear on his face. Tell me. All the presentations I've seen focus on numbers. Profit margins, efficiency metrics, cost projections. They're impersonal. What if instead you showed them the people? The actual employees, the communities you work with. Make it real, not just data on slides. Christopher leaned back in his chair, considering. Go on. I've been reading about this retailer. They're trying to rebuild their image after labor scandals. They need a supplier who can prove they treat workers well, who can provide actual evidence of ethical practices. So don't just tell them. Show them. Show them how. Bring them to the production facility. Let them meet the workers. Let the employees tell their own stories about what working for Blake Industries means to them. Show the daycare center you built on site, the health clinic, the training programs. Make the people the selling point, not just the product. Christopher was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, the first real smile Natalie had seen from him in days. That's brilliant. You think so? I think you just found our edge. Thomas can compete on price. He can't compete on this. Christopher pulled out his phone. Jennifer, we're changing our pitch strategy. I need you to arrange a facility tour next week and coordinate with. While Christopher made calls, Natalie felt a warmth spread through her chest. She'd actually helped. Her idea, born from her own experiences working multiple low-wage jobs, might make a difference. The next week was a blur of preparation. The production facility was cleaned until it gleamed. Employees were briefed but encouraged to speak honestly. Christopher rehearsed a presentation that focused less on statistics and more on people. The day of the pitch, 3 executives from the retail company arrived. 2 older men and a woman named Margaret Chen who seemed to be leading the decision. Christopher started with a brief overview but quickly transitioned. Rather than tell you about our practices, I'd like to show you. If you'll come with me. They toured the facility, and Natalie watched the executives' expressions shift from politely interested to genuinely impressed. Workers spoke about their benefits, the on-site childcare that let them see their kids at lunch, the health clinic that caught one woman's cancer early enough to treat it. How do you afford all this and stay competitive? Margaret asked. By being efficient where it matters and generous where it counts, Christopher replied. Happy workers are productive workers. Lower turnover means lower training costs. Healthy employees mean fewer sick days. These programs pay for themselves through loyalty and quality. Mitchell Enterprises quoted us 15% lower prices, one of the male executives noted. Mitchell Enterprises had 4 safety violations last year and a class action lawsuit from workers over wage theft, Christopher countered. Do you want to be associated with that? Margaret nodded slowly. You make a compelling case. But the real turning point came at lunch. The catering staff brought food, and one of the servers, an older woman named Rosa, accidentally spilled water on Margaret's sleeve. I'm so sorry, Rosa gasped, looking terrified. Please, I'm so sorry. It's fine, Margaret assured her. Accidents happen. Christopher appeared immediately. Rosa, are you okay? Yes, Mr. Blake. I'm so embarrassed. Don't be. We've all spilled things. Take a breath. You're doing great. Rosa nodded, near tears. After she left, Margaret looked at Christopher with new respect. You know her name. I know everyone's name. They work for me. That matters. After lunch, as they prepared to leave, Margaret pulled Christopher aside. Natalie was close enough to hear. I'll be honest, Mr. Blake. Your pitch was impressive. But what sold me was watching how you treat people. The way you spoke to that server. The fact that your employees genuinely like working here. That's rare. She paused. We'll have our answer by Friday, but I can tell you now, I'm recommending Blake Industries. When the executives left, Christopher turned to Natalie with an expression of pure relief and triumph. We did it, he said quietly. Your idea worked. We did it together. That evening, Christopher insisted on taking Natalie out to dinner to celebrate. They went to a small Italian restaurant far from the business district, somewhere quiet and private. To brilliant ideas, Christopher said, raising his wine glass. To taking chances on people, Natalie countered, clinking her glass against his. They ate and talked, and for the first time in weeks, Christopher looked relaxed. You saved my company today, you know that? I just had an idea. You did the hard part. Don't diminish what you did. That presentation only worked because you understood something I'd forgotten. That business isn't just about money. It's about people. You reminded me of that. Natalie felt her face warm. I learned that from you. From watching you actually care about your employees. Maybe we learned from each other. Christopher reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Natalie, I need to tell you something. Her heart started racing. What? Whatever this is between us, it's not just professional anymore. Maybe it never was. And I know that's complicated. You work for me. There are power dynamics and ethical considerations and 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea. He paused. But I don't care. I care about you. More than I should. More than I've cared about anyone in a long time. Natalie looked at their hands, his larger one completely covering hers. She should pull away. Should maintain boundaries. Should be smart about this. Instead, she turned her hand over, lacing her fingers with his. I care about you too, she admitted. And yeah, it's complicated. But maybe complicated is okay. Is it okay with you? Really? Because if you want me to back off, I will. Your job is secure either way. I promise. I don't want you to back off. Christopher smiled, and it transformed his whole face. Good. Because I've been wanting to do this for weeks. He leaned across the table and kissed her. Soft, gentle, perfect. When he pulled back, Natalie felt like her whole world had shifted. We'll figure out the complicated parts, Christopher said. Together. Together, Natalie agreed. They left the restaurant hand in hand, and Natalie knew that whatever came next, whatever challenges they faced, they'd face them as a team. Not just boss and assistant. Not just two people from different worlds. But two people who'd found something real in the middle of chaos, and were brave enough to hold on to it. The contract with the retail company came through on Friday, just as Margaret promised. The announcement sent Blake Industries stock soaring, and Thomas Mitchell's takeover attempt stalled as shareholders renewed their confidence in Christopher's leadership. But the victory was bittersweet. The business world now knew about Natalie's role in securing the deal, and the scrutiny intensified. She's using him for money, one gossip site declared. He's taking advantage of a vulnerable employee, another claimed. The board called an emergency meeting to discuss the situation, and Christopher attended with Natalie by his side, making it clear he wouldn't hide their relationship. This is inappropriate, Richard Townsend said. You're in a position of power over this woman. It's a liability. Natalie's role in securing our recent contract proves her value to this company, Christopher replied coldly. And my personal life is my business, not the board's. It becomes our business when it affects company reputation. Then perhaps your problem isn't with my relationship, but with your own narrow-minded assumptions about who belongs in positions of power. The meeting was tense, but Christopher held firm. When it ended, he took Natalie's hand as they walked back to his office. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm causing you so much trouble." "You're not causing anything. Small-minded people are revealing their prejudices, and I'm not backing down." He stopped, turning to face her. "Natalie, I need you to understand something. I'm not with you despite the complications. The complications don't matter. You matter." That night, unable to sleep, Natalie found herself painting for the first time in years. The art supplies Christopher had given her sat in her apartment, untouched until now. She mixed colors and let her brush move across the canvas, creating something abstract and emotional, all swirls of red and gold and deep blue. Around midnight, her phone rang. "Christopher. Did I wake you?" he asked. "I couldn't sleep. I was painting. Can I come see?" "No. It's after midnight. I can't sleep either. I keep thinking about you." Natalie hesitated only a moment. "Okay. Come over." He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his work clothes but with his tie loosened and his hair slightly messy. Natalie had never seen him look less than perfectly put together. She liked this version of him, vulnerable and human. "Show me what you painted," he said. She led him to the canvas, suddenly self-conscious. "It's not finished. And it's probably not very good." Christopher studied the painting in silence. Then, "It's beautiful. Chaotic but beautiful. Like how I feel most of the time." "Really? You see me as this controlled, powerful person. But inside I'm constantly questioning everything. Whether I'm doing the right thing, making the right choices, building something meaningful or just feeding my own ego." He turned to her. "You make me feel less chaotic. More grounded. You do the same for me. Before I met you I was drowning. Now I feel like I can actually breathe." They stood close in the small space of her apartment, and Natalie felt the pull between them like gravity. Christopher reached up, tucking a strand of her hair behind her ear. "I want to kiss you again," he said softly. "But I also want to do this right. I don't want you to ever feel pressured or obligated because of our work relationship." "I don't feel pressured. I feel seen, valued. For the first time in my life, someone sees all of me, not just what I can do for them. I do see you. And what I see is remarkable." He kissed her then, slower and deeper than the first time. Natalie felt herself melting into him, all her doubts and worries fading away. This was real. This mattered. When they finally pulled apart, Christopher rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me tonight. Not for anything except being together. I just want to hold you." They lay together on her couch, Christopher's arms wrapped around her, and talked until dawn. He told her about his lonely childhood in boarding schools, how he'd built his company partly to prove he was more than just his father's son. She told him about her dreams of studying psychology, about wanting to help people understand themselves better. "You should do it," Christopher said. "The degree program." "I meant what I said about the company paying for it. It's too much. You've already done so much for me. Then do it for yourself. You deserve to chase your dreams." As the sun rose, painting her apartment in soft light, Natalie realized she was falling in love. Not with Christopher's money or power or status, but with the man who built secret gardens for sick mothers and encouraged her dreams and saw value in everyone he met. The next week, Christopher insisted on visiting Natalie's mother. Grace had been moved to a rehabilitation facility as her treatment progressed, and she was getting stronger every day. "I'm nervous," Christopher admitted in the car. "What if she doesn't like me? My mama likes everyone. Until they give her a reason not to." Grace Robinson was sitting in her room when they arrived, wearing a green cardigan and looking healthier than Natalie had seen her in months. When Christopher entered, carrying flowers, Grace studied him with sharp, assessing eyes. "So you're the famous Christopher Blake," she said. "Yes, ma'am. It's an honor to meet you." "Is it now?" "My daughter tells me you've been very generous. Paying for my treatment, giving her a job, all of it. Your daughter earned everything she has. I just opened a door. She walked through it." Grace nodded slowly. "Sit down, young man. Let's talk." Natalie excused herself to get coffee, giving them privacy. When she returned 30 minutes later, Christopher and her mother were laughing together, looking at photos on Grace's phone. "Your mama is telling me about when you were little," Christopher said, grinning. "Apparently you once painted a portrait of your teacher and it made her cry." "It was supposed to be a compliment," Natalie protested. "I made her look younger." "You made her look 16. Grace corrected. She was 45 and not happy about looking like her own daughter. They spent the afternoon together, easy and comfortable. Before they left, Grace pulled Christopher aside while Natalie packed up the flowers. "You treat my daughter right," Grace said firmly. "I don't care about your money. I care that you respect her." "I do, ma'am. More than I can say." "Good. Because she's been through enough heartache. She deserves someone who sees her worth." "I promise you I see it. Every day." In the car afterward, Christopher was quiet. "What did my mama say to you?" Natalie asked. "She told me to treat you right. And she's right. You do deserve that." He reached over, taking her hand. "Natalie, I know we've only known each other a few months, but I can't imagine my life without you anymore. You've changed everything. You changed my life first. We changed each other's lives. That's what matters." That evening, Christopher took Natalie to the rooftop garden, now flourishing despite the November cold. They walked among the plants, his arm around her shoulders. "I have something to tell you," he said. "The board approved a new position. Special Advisor for Community Relations. I want you to take it." "Christopher, I can't." "You can. The job you did securing that retail contract proved you have insight into what matters to people. I want you to help guide our community programs, our employee benefits, our ethical standards. Not as my assistant. As a real executive. But I don't have the education or experience. You have something better. You have perspective. You've lived the life our employees live. You understand what they need. That's invaluable." Natalie thought about it. A real career. A chance to make a difference. And Christopher, believing in her enough to offer it. "Yes," she said. "Thank you. I accept." He pulled her close and kissed her, and Natalie felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Not because of money or status or rescue, but because she'd found someone who saw her truly, who valued her mind and heart as much as her work. They stood on the rooftop as the city lights came on below them, two people who'd found each other in the unlikeliest of circumstances, and decided to build something real together. The promotion to Special Advisor for Community Relations came with a new office, a significant raise, and more responsibility than Natalie had ever imagined having. But it also came with something unexpected: respect. Employees started coming to her with ideas for improving workplace conditions. Department heads asked her opinion on community initiatives. Even the board members, including the skeptical Richard Townsend, began treating her as a legitimate executive rather than just Christopher's assistant. "You're doing excellent work," Richard said grudgingly after a presentation Natalie gave about expanding the employee healthcare program. "I may have been wrong about you." Natalie took the compliment for what it was, an admission that she'd proven herself beyond anyone's expectations, including perhaps her own. With Grace's treatment complete and the doctors cautiously optimistic about her prognosis, Natalie wanted to do something special. Christopher's father's birthday was approaching, and she suggested they visit together. "Are you sure?" Christopher asked. "Meeting my father is significant. I want to meet him. You've met my mother. It's only fair." They drove upstate on a Saturday morning, the landscape transforming from city to countryside. Christopher grew quieter the further they drove, his hands tight on the steering wheel. "My father and I have a complicated relationship," he admitted. "He thinks I sold out, chose money over meaning." "Did you?" "Maybe I did. For a while. But I'm trying to change that now. Thanks to you." Robert Blake's house was a small farmhouse surrounded by fields. Nothing like the luxury Christopher lived in. An older man with gray hair and Christopher's same sharp eyes answered the door. "Christopher," he said warmly, pulling his son into a hug. Then he noticed Natalie. "And you must be the young woman I've been reading about." "Natalie Robinson, sir. It's nice to meet you. Call me Robert. Any friend of Christopher's is welcome here. Come in, come in." The inside of the house was cozy, filled with old furniture and family photos. Robert led them to the kitchen where a woman in a blue blouse was setting out lunch. "This is Patricia, my wife," Robert introduced. "We married 3 years ago after I retired." "It's lovely to meet you both," Natalie said. Over lunch, Robert asked Natalie about her background. She was honest about everything. Growing up with a single mother, working multiple jobs, becoming Christopher's assistant and now his advisor. "So you understand what real work is," Robert said approvingly. "Not just moving money around on paper." "Dad," Christopher said warningly. "I'm not criticizing. I'm saying she has real-world experience. That's valuable." Robert turned to Christopher. "You've made good choices lately. That community program, the ethical sourcing standards, now this retail contract focused on worker welfare. That's the son I raised. Not the corporate shark you were becoming. Christopher's jaw tightened. I built a successful company. You built an empire. But were you happy? Did it mean anything? It means something now. The tension at the table was thick. Patricia gently changed the subject, asking about Grace's recovery. But after lunch, when Patricia and Natalie were washing dishes together, Patricia quietly said, "Don't mind Robert. He's proud of Christopher. He just has trouble showing it." Why did they grow apart? Robert wanted Christopher to take over his hardware store. Small business, honest work. When Christopher built his own company instead, Robert felt rejected. And Christopher felt like his father didn't believe in him. Patricia dried a plate. They both love each other. They just don't know how to bridge the gap. Later, Natalie found Christopher and Robert in the barn, looking at an old truck. "This was my first vehicle," Robert was saying. "Bought it with money from my first paycheck. Drove it for 20 years. I remember," Christopher said softly. "You taught me to drive in this truck. You were terrified. Kept stalling out." Robert chuckled. "But you never quit. That's always been your strength. You don't quit. I learned that from you." Robert looked at his son. "I'm proud of you, Christopher. I haven't said that enough. Maybe never said it at all. But I am." "Thanks, Dad." They stood there, father and son, and Natalie saw Christopher's eyes get misty. She quietly backed away, giving them privacy. On the drive home that evening, Christopher was subdued. "That went better than I expected," he finally said. "Your father loves you." "I know. We've always struggled to communicate. But today felt different. Like maybe we're finally understanding each other. Because you're showing him you care about more than just money now. Because you helped me remember what matters." Christopher glanced at her. "Thank you for coming today. For being patient with my complicated family. Everyone's family is complicated. Mine included." 2 weeks later, Christopher surprised Natalie by bringing his personal physician to meet Grace. "Dr. Morrison is a specialist in cancer recovery," Christopher explained. "I wanted him to review your mother's case, make sure she's getting the best follow-up care." Grace, now back in her own apartment thanks to financial help from Natalie's new salary, welcomed the doctor graciously. After the examination, Dr. Morrison gave them good news. Grace's cancer was in remission and her prognosis was excellent. "Your daughter saved your life," Dr. Morrison told Grace. "By getting you treatment when she did." "No," Grace corrected, looking at Christopher. "You saved my life. By giving my daughter the means to help me. I just provided resources. Natalie did everything else." That evening, Christopher stayed for dinner at Grace's apartment. It was simple food, nothing fancy, but it reminded Christopher of meals from his childhood, before boarding schools and business empire. "This is nice," he said. "Real. This is what family dinner is supposed to be," Grace said. "Not fancy restaurants or formal events. Just people who care about each other, sharing a meal." Christopher met Natalie's eyes across the table, and she saw emotions there she couldn't quite name. Later, walking back to her apartment building, he took her hand. "I want this," he said. "Want what?" "This. Family dinners. Simple evenings. A life that means something beyond business deals and profit margins." He stopped walking. "I want it with you." Natalie's heart raced. "Christopher. I'm not proposing. Not yet. But I'm telling you that I see a future with you. A real one. And I want you to know that." "I see it too," Natalie admitted. "It scares me sometimes. How much I want this. It scares me too. But I'm willing to be scared if it means being with you." They stood on the quiet street, city sounds distant, and kissed under the streetlights. And Natalie knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because they'd found something rare and precious. Love that saw past surfaces, that valued character over status, that chose kindness over everything else. And that was worth any risk. December brought cold weather and a new crisis. Thomas Mitchell, furious about losing the retail contract and seeing his takeover attempt fail, decided to play dirty. The first article appeared on a Monday morning, Blake Industries CEO's secret. Did he manipulate former employee into relationship? The story was full of twisted facts and outright lies. It claimed Christopher had coerced Natalie into a relationship, used his power to take advantage of her, and promoted her to silence her potential lawsuit. Natalie read the article in horror. "This is insane. None of this is true." "It doesn't have to be true," Christopher said grimly. "It just has to create doubt. Thomas is trying to force me out by destroying my reputation." More articles followed, each one worse than the last. Anonymous sources claimed Natalie was a gold digger. Photos from the charity gala were published with captions suggesting inappropriate behavior. Someone even dug up old social media posts from Natalie's high school years and twisted them to make her look bad. The board called another emergency meeting. "This is getting out of control," Richard said. "We need damage control. Maybe you should announce that you and Ms. Robinson have ended your relationship. Just until this blows over." "No," Christopher said flatly. "Christopher, be reasonable. The company's reputation. The company's reputation is built on honesty and integrity. Walking away from Natalie now would be neither honest nor integrity." "I won't do it." "Then perhaps it's time to consider stepping down as CEO," another board member suggested. "Let someone else lead until this scandal passes." Christopher stood slowly, his expression cold and controlled. "I built this company from nothing. I've made it into one of the most respected corporations in America. And I've done it by staying true to my values. If you think I'm going to abandon those values now, you're mistaken." He left the meeting with Natalie following. In his office he paced like a caged animal. "They're going to force me out," he said. "Thomas has won." "No," Natalie said firmly. "He hasn't. Because you're going to fight back." "How?" "Everything I say just fuels more speculation." "Then don't just say it. Show it. Call a press conference. Tell the truth. All of it. How we met, why you hired me, why you promoted me. Let people see the real story. That could backfire. Give them more ammunition. Or it could end this. Christopher, you taught me that honesty matters more than image. Time to prove you believe that." Christopher looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay. We do it together. Both of us. United front." The press conference was scheduled for Friday afternoon in Blake Tower's main conference room. Every major media outlet sent reporters. Cameras were set up. The room buzzed with anticipation. Natalie wore a maroon dress, professional and confident. Christopher stood beside her in a navy suit, his hand resting lightly on her back, a subtle message of solidarity. When the room quieted, Christopher began speaking. "Thank you all for coming. I'm here today to address the rumors and speculation about my relationship with Natalie Robinson. Rather than let others tell our story, we're going to tell it ourselves." He explained everything. How they'd met when Natalie cleaned his office. How her honesty and dignity had impressed him. How he'd offered her a job to help her family situation. "Some people will say I took advantage of someone in a vulnerable position," Christopher continued. "But the truth is, Natalie has never been anyone's victim. She's a remarkable woman who worked 3 jobs to support her dying mother. Who faced impossible odds with grace and determination. Who, when given an opportunity, exceeded every expectation." Natalie stepped forward to speak, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I'm not here because Christopher Blake rescued me. I'm here because he saw my potential and gave me a chance to prove myself. Yes, we develop feelings for each other. Yes, that's complicated. But it's also real and it's honest, and I refuse to apologize for it." Questions came rapid fire from reporters. "Did Mr. Blake coerce you into this relationship?" "Absolutely not. Christopher has been nothing but respectful." "Are you using him for his money?" "I have my own career, my own salary, my own achievements. I don't need anyone's money." "Mr. Blake, your board is calling for your resignation. What's your response?" Christopher's expression was steel. "My response is that I'm more committed than ever to leading this company according to our values. Values that include treating people with dignity, creating opportunities for those who work hard, and refusing to be intimidated by those who prioritize profit over principles." Is that a reference to Thomas Mitchell? Thomas Mitchell has been spreading lies to manipulate stock prices and force a takeover. He's using personal attacks because he can't compete on merit. So yes, that's absolutely a reference to Thomas Mitchell. The room erupted with more questions, but Christopher held up his hand. "One more thing. I'm announcing today a new program at Blake Industries. We're establishing a fund to help employees pursue higher education, just like Natalie is doing. We're expanding our community programs to 10 more cities. And we're increasing our minimum wage across all facilities to $25 an hour, because we believe people who work for us deserve to live with dignity." He paused, looking directly at the cameras. "Thomas Mitchell and people like him think business is about ruthless competition and maximizing profit at any cost. But I believe business can be a force for good. It can create opportunities. It can strengthen communities. It can change lives. And I'm going to keep proving that regardless of what anyone says." The press conference ended to a mixture of reactions. Some outlets praised Christopher's honesty. Others remained skeptical. But the conversation shifted. Instead of focusing on scandal, people started discussing Blake Industries' values and programs. The real test came Monday morning. Shareholders were voting on whether to support Thomas Mitchell's takeover or remain with Christopher's leadership. Natalie sat with Christopher in his office as the votes came in. His face was calm, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. Jennifer entered at 10 a.m. with the results. Christopher, the votes are in. Shareholders voted 73% in favor of maintaining current leadership. Thomas Mitchell's bid has been rejected. Christopher let out a breath he'd been holding. Thank God. There's more, Jennifer continued. Richard Townsend is stepping down from the board. He recommended that Natalie Robinson be nominated to take his position. What? Natalie gasped. He said, and I quote, "If we're going to move forward with these values-driven initiatives, we need someone who actually understands them on the board. Ms. Robinson has proven herself more than qualified." After Jennifer left, Christopher pulled Natalie into his arms. "We did it," he whispered. "You did it. We did it together." They stood there holding each other, knowing they'd faced the worst and survived. But more than that, they'd stayed true to themselves and each other. They hadn't compromised their values for convenience or pressure. That afternoon, as the sun set over the city, Christopher took Natalie to the rooftop garden one more time. "I have something to ask you," he said. Natalie's heart started racing. "Not that." "Not yet," Christopher said quickly. "But I want you to know that I'm committed to this. To us. To building a life together. And when the time is right, when you're ready, I'm going to ask you properly." "I'll say yes," Natalie told him. "Just so you know. When you ask, the answer is yes. Even knowing what comes with it? The scrutiny, the pressure, the complicated family dynamics. Especially knowing all that. Because it means I'm choosing you fully. All of you. The good and the complicated and everything in between." Christopher kissed her then, soft and tender and full of promise. And Natalie knew that this was just the beginning of their story, not the end. They'd faced external threats and won. Now they would face the future together, building something real and lasting. Not based on fairy tales or rescue fantasies, but on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine love. And that was the best foundation of all. 6 months passed like a dream. Grace completed her cancer treatment successfully and returned to full health. Natalie began night classes in psychology, balancing her work as special advisor with her studies. Christopher transformed Blake Industries into a model of ethical business practices, with other companies starting to follow their example. But the biggest change was personal. Natalie moved into Christopher's penthouse apartment, a decision they made together after careful consideration. Not because it was expected or convenient, but because they wanted to wake up together every morning and build a shared life. "This doesn't mean you're dependent on me," Christopher had insisted. "You keep your own bank account, your own career, your own independence. This is partnership, not possession." "I know," Natalie had assured him. "That's why I'm saying yes." The penthouse became theirs, not his. Natalie's paintings hung on the walls alongside expensive artwork. Her books filled the shelves. Her mother's photographs sat on the mantel. It was a blend of their two worlds, creating something new. In April, Blake Industries held a company event celebrating their community initiatives. The ballroom was filled with employees, board members, and community leaders. Natalie wore a beautiful blue dress, feeling confident and comfortable in her role. Halfway through the evening, Christopher took the microphone. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began. "This past year has been transformative for Blake Industries. We've proven that businesses can prioritize both profit and people. That success doesn't require compromising values. And we've done it together as a team." He paused, scanning the crowd until his eyes found Natalie. "But I need to take a moment for something personal. Would Natalie Robinson please come up here?" Natalie's heart started pounding. She made her way through the crowd to the stage, where Christopher waited with a smile she'd never seen before. Nervous, hopeful, vulnerable. "Natalie, when you walked into my office that night, you changed my life. Not because you needed rescue, but because you showed me what real strength looks like. You taught me that power isn't about control. It's about lifting others up. You reminded me why any of this matters." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I'm not asking you to marry Christopher Blake, the billionaire CEO. I'm asking you to marry Christopher, the man who loves you more than anything. The man who wants to spend his life making you as happy as you've made him." He opened the box, revealing a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. Natalie Robinson, will you marry me? The room was completely silent. Natalie felt tears streaming down her face. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. Christopher slipped the ring on her finger and pulled her into his arms, kissing her as the room erupted in applause. Later, as they danced together with everyone watching, Natalie whispered, "Your board members are probably having heart attacks. They're applauding. Even Richard is smiling. You won them over completely. We won them over. Together." Together, Christopher agreed. Grace approached when the song ended, tears in her eyes. "I'm so happy for you, baby. He's a good man. He is, Mama. And you're a good woman. Never forget your worth, never let anyone diminish you, and never stop being yourself." "I won't. I promise." The celebration continued late into the night. Christopher's father and stepmother attended, Robert pulling Natalie aside to say, "You're good for my son. Thank you for loving him. Thank you for raising him to be the kind of man worth loving." 3 months later, they got married in a simple ceremony. Not a huge society wedding, but something intimate and meaningful. The rooftop garden at Blake Tower, now flourishing with summer flowers, served as their venue. Grace walked Natalie down the aisle, healthy and strong. Robert stood as Christopher's best man. Jennifer and Patricia were Natalie's bridesmaids. A small group of close friends and family members formed the audience. Natalie wore a green dress, simple and elegant. Christopher wore a navy suit with a red tie, his eyes never leaving her as she approached. The ceremony was brief but heartfelt. They wrote their own vows. "I promise to see you, really see you every day," Christopher said. "To value your mind as much as your heart. To support your dreams while pursuing mine. To be your partner in everything from business decisions to grocery shopping. To choose you every day for the rest of my life. I promise to challenge you when you need it and support you always," Natalie replied. "To remind you what matters when you get lost in work. To be honest even when it's difficult. To build a life with you based on love, respect, and kindness. To choose you every day for the rest of my life." When the officiant pronounced them married, they kissed as husband and wife, surrounded by flowering plants and people who genuinely loved them. The reception was held in the penthouse, catered food and champagne, music and laughter. It wasn't fancy or formal. It was real. During their first dance as a married couple, Christopher whispered, "Happy? Incredibly happy. You. More than I ever thought possible." They swayed together, and Natalie marveled at how far they'd both come. From that night in the office, from desperation and loneliness, to this moment of pure joy and connection. As the party wound down and guests began leaving, Christopher pulled Natalie onto the balcony. The city spread out below them, lights twinkling in the darkness. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For taking a chance on me. For seeing past the money and power to the person underneath. For teaching me how to be better. You taught me too. You taught me that asking for help isn't weakness. That accepting kindness isn't surrender. That I deserve good things even when I haven't earned them. You earned everything, Natalie. Through your strength, your compassion, your unwavering integrity." He pulled her close. "And now we get to spend the rest of our lives earning each other's love every single day." They stood together, looking out at their city, their future, their life. And Natalie knew that this was what happiness felt like. Not perfection. Not a fairy tale. Just two imperfect people who'd found each other and decided to build something real. 3 weeks after the wedding, an envelope arrived at their penthouse. It was marked urgent in red letters. Christopher opened it with a smile. This should be interesting. Inside was an invitation to speak at a global summit on ethical business practices in Geneva. The letter explained that Blake Industries had become a model for values-driven corporate leadership, and they wanted Christopher and Natalie to share their approach with business leaders from around the world. "They want both of us," Christopher said. "As a team. Should we do it? What do you think?" Natalie considered it. A year ago she'd been cleaning offices for $12 an hour. Now she was being invited to speak at international summits. It was surreal. But she'd learned to accept opportunities with gratitude, not doubt. "I think we should do it. We have something worth sharing. Then we're going to Geneva." Christopher pulled her into his arms. Together. Always together. As they stood in their home, the city alive outside their windows, Natalie felt complete. Not because a man had rescued her. Not because wealth had solved her problems. But because she'd worked hard, stayed true to herself, accepted help when it was offered, and found love in the most unexpected place. She'd learned that kindness was strength, that hope was necessary, and that love could transform everything. Not the romantic, dramatic love of movies, but the steady, daily choice to see and value another person fully. And she'd learned that happy endings weren't really endings at all. They were just new beginnings, full of possibility and promise. This was her new beginning. Theirs together. And it was just getting started.